Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror. Today we are going to unveil the secrets of Ivan Disliznia, the treacherous master poisoner who is the Dark Lord of Borka. Are you ready? Searching for the whereabouts of the Amulet of Souls, we join in a theatrical troupe destined to perform at Ivan Disliznia Private Theater inside the Degraven Mansion. This theatrical group is nothing more than an experienced band of thieves, and they were hired to infiltrate the gravel in order to search for the old birth records of Ivan Disliznian's stillborn children with his late wife Lucretia. This opportunity to explore the Degraven Manor in search of its secret treasures is our chance to find the whereabouts of the Amulet of Souls, a treasure that may be in the possession of the infamous Ivan Disliznia. After entering the house of the opulent palace, we met our theatrical host, with his exaggerated and lively manners. During a dinner of strange courses and drinks, he wastes no time in questioning us about the details of the play we would perform. With several criticisms, suggestions, and changes to the text of our false play, he boasts of his great theatrical talents and quickly tells us, without any shame, about his macabre past, to justify his understanding of the human nature. Hour of the Raven.
Nonsense! Absurd! Tear these words and throw your plate to the pigs. You do not understand anything about human nature. Your childish vision is totally contaminated by your foolish morals. Free yourself from these chains and illusions about good and evil. The only two things that move a man are the desire to satisfy his most sordid pleasures and fear.
Ivan Disliznia is the Dark Lord of Borka, sharing the rank of Dark Lord of the domain with his cousin Ivana Boritsi. The character is an extravagant and theatrical nobleman, a man who is unscrupulous and who has become a treacherous poisoning master. Ivan Disliznia's character adapts a classic villain of Gothic literature to the Ravenloft campaign setting. Ivan is present as a member of the nobility, degenerate and immoral, a man of a strong personality, capable of horrendous acts to satisfy his macabre desires, and who has become a treacherous poisoner. In my view, Ivan's background mixes classic elements of Gothic villains, with some reference to the English poet Lord Byron, especially for his theatrical nature and for the rumors of an incestual relationship with his sister. Ivan Disliznia is currently 68 years old and is a short man with striking blue eyes. Although he is still in good health and physical vigor, he begins to feel the signs of age, and his once blonde curly hair has given way to grey tones. Ivan is a man of very lively and exaggerated behavior. He always gesticulates a lot and usually changes the pitch of his voice between low whispers and loud exclamations when he wants to reinforce some point. This theatrical and eccentric conduct could hardly be tolerated for a long time, but Ivan is a powerful man, and the members of his court know the dangers of displeasing the moods of Borka's sovereign. Ivan considers himself a profound connoisseur of human nature and a great actor. He is cunning and is always scrutinizing the behavior of those around him, and can rarely be deceived, confusing Ivan's joy and constant laughter with the behavior of a cuddly fool is a mistake that many do not live to repeat. He dresses in elegant clothes, according to the fashion style in Borka's high society. However, the unpredictable Ivan keeps a closet full of different clothes and costumes, and it's not uncommon to find a nobleman disguised as one of his many imaginary characters. Ivan lives a decadent and hedonistic lifestyle, amid luxuries and excesses. This foppish style hides a bitter and spiteful man. In the past, Ivan was a great enthusiast of exclusive cuisine and expensive drinks, but when he became the Dark Lord of Dorvinia, he became cursed, and today any food and drink tastes like ashes in his mouth. The Dark Lord of Borca is not one of great combat skills, but he usually surrounds himself with hireguards and men enslaved by his toxins. Ivan assures the loyalty of his men by contaminating them with a fatal, slow-acting poison. Only by remaining loyal to Ivan do they receive a secret antidote, which acts only as a poison retarding agent, keeping them always at the mercy of their cruel lord. Ivan is a master poisoner, and with few resources, he can produce dangerous substances and toxins with the most varied effects. By becoming a Dark Lord, Ivan has also become immune to any toxins, and has also acquired a supernatural ability, being able to transform any object that he touches into a transmitter of a potent poison, which can vary as lethal, dangerous, or just debilitating toxins, according to Ivan's will. Ivan usually uses some magical artifacts, such as bracelets, rings, and cloaks, which in addition to adorning his body, give him magical protection against attacks. He also carries a magic poisoner rapier, which he named Wasp Tongue. Ivan arrived at the lands of Dorvinia when he was unveiled by the mists, and used his noble ancestry, cunning and cruelty, to ascend to power, becoming the Seth of Dorvinia. After the Grand Conjunction, the dominions of Dorvinia and Borca were unified into a single nation under the name of Borca, and he signed treaties and agreements, sharing power with his cousin Ivana Boritsi. Despite also being the Dark Lord of Borca, Ivan is not able to close the border of his domain, and such a supernatural ability can be accomplished only by his cousin Ivana. But what secrets surround the extravagant and theatrical Dark Lord of Borca? What macabre acts and scenes transformed the noble into an immoral and degenerate man, a dangerous and treacherous master poisoner? The Delisnia family has its historical roots in the ancestral lands of Borca and Dorvinia, which in the remote past were once part of the realm of Barovia. Ivan Delisnia's ancestors were a branch of this powerful family that was in Barovia when it was swallowed by the mists. The Delisnias had to hide their identity in order to survive after the events of the tragic wedding of Sergei Zarovich and Tatiana Fedorovna, when they were publicly accused of the massacre. When new lands and domains were unveiled by the mists, countless family members had left Barovia, where they lived in the shadows, and resumed their family name. In the year 684 of the Barovian calendar, a part of the ancestral lands of the Delisnias was unveiled by the mists, and Camille Delisnia assumed the post of ruler and Cephasa of those lands. Boris Delisnia was a distant cousin to Camille, and moved with his wife Stefania Septal and daughter Christiana, just 2 years old, to the capital Levkarest in the lands of Borca. The Delisnia reclaimed their lands and nobility titles, but Boris' family was seen with distrust by the ruler Camille. Ivan Delisnia was born in Levkarest in the year 689 of the Barovian calendar. On the same date as Ivan's birth, his cousin Ivana Boritsi was born, daughter of the Cephasa Camille Boritsi and Klaus Boritsi. As a child, Ivana and Ivan became very close, and the coincidence of their birth date made many refer to both as twins. Despite this proximity, these children were quite different. Ivana was seen as a sweet and loving child, but Ivan soon showed problematic behavior. At just 6 years old, Ivan began to torture and kill animals. This sadistic and cruel behavior was kept secret by the family, and the Deliznia's position of nobility prevented any repercussions for his actions. At the age of 10, Ivan killed the son of one of his family servants, poisoning the boy for stealing a pastry. Ivan remained unpunished for the child's death, but just 2 years later, his mother, Stefania Septal, also died of poisoning. At the time, Ivan vowed he was not involved in the murder, and Stefania's death was classified as an accident. But today, Ivan openly brags how he poisoned his strict and controlling mother. Many saw Ivan as a troubled child. However, young Ivan had a deep affective relationship with his older sister Christiana. Ivan was obsessed with his sister, and she always defended Ivan in front of everyone, saying that he was a lovely child. Ivan grew up as a pampered and inconsequential young man, and was left unpunished for his acts of cruelty, intrigue, and manipulation. From an early age, he applied himself to the study of poisons, the ancient tradition and secrets of the Deliznia family. In addition to his studies on poison, the young man was passionate about theater, and was also dedicated to the pursuit of sensorial pleasures, and was a great enthusiast of hot cuisine and refined drinks. Ivan was selfish and liked to be the center of attention, and he had his sister Christiana and his cousin Ivana as his closest affections, from whom he demanded attention and pampering. In time, Ivan became obsessed and possessive with his older sister. When Christiana married Edgar Leskovich, Ivan had a fit of jealousy. Ivan's behavior worsened when Christiana reported that she was pregnant. Ivan resented Christiana for having replaced him in her affections, and took these feelings to an extreme. Shortly after the birth of his nephew, in 709 of the Barovian calendar, Ivan poisoned and murdered Christiana and Edgar. His newborn nephew only escaped his revenge because a midwife ran away with the child. Ivan was chased by his family to the border of the mists, when he launched himself into the fog to escape. He emerged in the mountainous lands that were once part of the ancient realm of Barovia, and that surrounded the controversial Mount Greece and its silver veins. The region that would come to be known as Dorvinia was lost in the mist for many years. Many believed that the region was engulfed and isolated by the mists when Nikolai Deliznia, an elderly and senile nobleman, murdered his granddaughter, great-granddaughter, and servants with a dagger in an homicidal outbreak. Like his aunt Camille Borizzi, Ivan arrived in the lands of Dorvinia and found his family ancestral properties and lands commanded by regents and proxies in the absence of their rightful owners. Ivan proved to be a legitimate Deliznian nobleman and heir to the lands, and used cunning, poisons, and intrigues to quickly claim the post of serf and ruler of those lands, which he named Dorvinia in honor of a distant ancestor. Wealth and power made the spoiled and selfish Ivan an absolute ruler, and his childish, violent, and treacherous temperament meant that his desires were immediately fulfilled by his subjects. Ivan's power did not come without consequences, however. The hedonistic Ivan, who was always delighted in gastronomic pleasures and refined drinks, found that everything he tasted felt like ashes in his mouth. The master poisoner also discovered that he had acquired supernatural gifts. He became immune to toxins, and through a mere touch he could impose his will and turn any object into a transmitter of a potent poison. Ivan settled in the Gravel Mansion, an ancient property of the Deliznia family, near the city of Dlishberg. The palace where Ivan lives is surrounded by walls, and they hide a vast and beautiful garden. The sumptuous property has countless rooms and ballrooms for dinners and dances, and has a wing known as the Games Room, a private area of Lord Ivan, where those invited to enter are never seen again. Dorvinia is a land full of mineral resources, and Ivan ruled as a cruel tyrant, demanding absurd bribes and playing dangerous and lethal games of intrigue among his supporters. Dorvinia emerged as an opportunity for wealth and social ascension, and attracted the most greedy and cruel members of Borca aristocracy to Ivan's court. Deprived of his sensory pleasures, Ivan invested in the development of Lichburg's theatrical activities, becoming a patron of writers, directors, and actors in plays. He maintains a private theater inside the Gravel Manor for private performances, and considers himself a great actor and deep connoisseur of theatrical art. Ivan is a demanding patron, and artists constantly suffer from Ivan's direct and abrupt interference in the text, direction, and performance of the plays. To consolidate his new position of power, Ivan married Lucretia Marzeia in 716. During the short period they were together, Lucretia became pregnant twice, and once gestated twins. Whenever she became pregnant, however, Ivan seemed to be in a bad mood, claiming that he had been betrayed and replaced. Although official records indicate that all three children were stillborns. Rumors circulate that Lucretia bribed the midwives to escape with the children still alive, and that such children may be being raised safely to one day claim the inheritance of Ivan's fortune. The marriage ended in 720 of the Barovian calendar, when Ivan poisoned and murdered Lucretia. Ivan found an important means of ensuring his subjects' loyalty. He developed a lethal slow-acting poison, and poisoned his closest bodyguards and subjects with these toxins. Only he knows the secret of an antidote that delays the toxin effects, and only the obedience and loyalty of his subjects makes them receive a daily dose to prolong their lives. Dorvinia's emergence from the mists attracted Falkovnia's attention. Rumor has it that the cruel and audacious Ivan intended to ally himself with Falkovnia and strike a deal to supply Falkovian armies with iron, weapons, and gunpowder. Dracov, however, believed that he could conquer such wealth by force. In 727 of the Barovian calendar, in an unexpected and unpredictable move not foreseen by Ivan's spies, Dracov ordered a surprise and brutal attack on Dorvinia, and his men reached the city of Lichburg, where they massacred the population. The Falkovian invasion left a trail of dead bodies, but the Golden Claw massacre also ended in the death of all Falkovian forces. Before they could even plunder Dorvinia's riches, the soldiers began to vomit blood and died of poisoning from a toxin so potent that everyone who touched their bodies was also contaminated, and they had to be incinerated. Ivan to this day boasts of disguising himself as a soldier of the Falkovian army and spreading a powerful poison among his enemies, while they massacre the population of Lichburg. Drakov's attacks led Ivan to sign the Treaty of the Four Towers, an alliance of mutual defense against Falkovnia that involved the kingdoms of Demoli, Modern, Richmulaw, Borca, and Dorvinia. The name of the Four Towers come not from the numbers of nations involved, but from the large signatory families, Ginol, Wedamay, Henier, and Delisnia. The Dark Twins, as Ivana and Ivan became known, were friends in their childhood, and always kept Borca and Dorvinia as allied nations, commercial and political partners. When the Grand Conjunction took place in 740 of the Barovian calendar, both kingdoms were shaken by tremors and supernatural forces, and Ivan and Ivana left the isolation of their courts to meet each other in search of mutual support. Ivan, feeling that he was no longer bound by the limits of his domain, went to the halls of Misericordia Palace in Levkarest. He and Ivana held weeks of intense negotiations, and after intrigues, bribes, and threats,
among members of both courts. They signed a treaty for the unification of the kingdoms, forming the current nation of Borca. A new balance of power and alliances has been struck between the Dark Twins. The elders in Borca claim that the kingdom now suffers from the excesses of two Camillos, with Ivan being the heir to her madness and brutality, and Ivana the heir to their misanthropy and contempt for humanity. Ivan took control of Borca's army, becoming the head of a wild network of militiamen. Borca's nobility and aristocracy are responsible for the security of their lands, and they hired armed men to guarantee order and collect fees and taxes within the limits of their property. Lord Ivan is currently concentrating their efforts to raise Borca's army, calling for a common coordination of these militias. He sells to Stapans the right to embroider Borca's insignias on their uniforms, expanding their area of autonomy, but submitting them to an eventual request from Lord Ivan. The only area free of Ivan's influence today is the lands of the Church of Ezra, which has not joined Ivan's coalition, and continues to maintain its lands with a private army of the church. These militias are supposed to protect the population and guard the roads, but it's not uncommon for them to levy taxes on passage and to enforce bribes for the security provided, or to fulfill their most basic duties, and a part of all this extortion is always delivered for the coffers of Ivan. Ivan de Ziznia also secretly commands a dangerous network of informants, assassins and spies, who directly interfere in the policy of neighboring kingdoms. Ivan is fed with information from his spies, and ensures that possible threats to the security, economy, or influence of the nation of Borca are eliminated before they flourish. Many speculate, however, that with the advancing age of Ivan, Borca will soon be without his main external protector, and will become an easy target for the bellicose nations that surround it. Ivana, in turn, maintains a life of luxuries and excesses, but guaranteed indentures, contracts, taxes, commercial and diplomatic agreements that ensure a constant flow of wealth to her coffers, coming from outside and within her kingdom. As time passes, the relationship between the two cousins has deteriorated, while a constant struggle for power is waged in the shadows. Ivan is now an aged and resentful man, but is still astute and cruel. The eternal beauty and youth of Ivana cause great disturbance in Ivan. As he grows older, he seeks to discover the secret of Ivana's eternal youth, and believes that she keeps the secret formula of the venom of life. Her refusal to share such secrets with Ivan has deeply angered him, and the treacherous Seth of Borca does not like to be contradicted. After listening to Ivan de Ziznia's stories and suffering from Ivan's constant intrusions and changes in our theatrical play, we are finally taken to our rooms in the manor. After dark, we and the other companions of our band of thieves began to explore the palace in search of our goals. Our rogue partners managed to disarm poisoned traps and open the locks to take us to the secret rooms of the De Gravo mansion. We search his treasures amid a macabre dagger and dark artifacts, but we fail to encounter the Amulet of Souls. At least, our companions are able to find the documents they were looking for, the records registering the birth and death of the children of Ivan and Lucretia. When we return to our room, we are surprised to find our objects overturned, and we are surrounded by Ivan's soldiers. Our host scoffed at our intention to deceive him, and we are subjected to torture and beatings. Our time in prison is short-lived. Ivan's mood seemed to improve when he discovered in our possession the book with Ivana Boritsi memoirs, and seems to extract great delight reading her notes. Our execution is halted, and he informs us that he poisoned us at our last meal,
and we will receive a daily dose of an effect-retarding antidote if we cooperate. With a macabre smile on his lips, he says he will still make us real actors. For days, we are directed by Ivan for a play, a satire exposing the secrets of Ivana Boritsi. Finally, he seems satisfied and takes us to Levkarest for a grand theater debut. Obliged to obey, under pain of dying from poison, we perform the play in Levkarest theater. In the audience, we see Ivana's enraged face and hear Ivan's high and exaggerated mocking laughter. Ivana makes a gesture to her allies, and we see her Immortals approaching. In panic, we abandon the stage and theater, escaping through a back door and fleeing for our lives. We will soon die from Ivan's poison, but our survival instinct makes us once again flee through Levkarest in search of a refuge. In desperation, we arrive at the great Cathedral of Ezra. Luckily for us, Torret Johann, one of the high clerics of this bastion, realizes our despair and offers us shelter in the sacred halls. Refugees in the secret cellars of the great cathedral, Torret Johann listened to our story. Join us, subscribe to this channel, and activate notifications, while we will beg for the help and mercy of the priests and unravel the mysteries of Ezra's church and fate.